afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all. Day 2 officially on our way. Happy Tuesday. So today we're just going to continue sort of working this technique, Kumbhaka, breath retention, in the same manner that we worked with it yesterday. And that was a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio, meaning your inhale, your top retention, which is from this point on, it's an internal retention, meaning that you are holding your breath within your lungs. So inhale, internal retention, exhale, external retention. That all 4 parts of this breath technique are the same amount of time, right? And so for this reason, this technique at this point is called a squared breath. What is often the case is that our inhales are the shortest lived. So it makes sense that our inhale determines the baseline or determines the length. Some nuances in terms of like how to organize your breath to make sure that you're hitting this 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio, this square, is that more often than not, you'll have to exhale a bit faster. You'll have to accelerate the exhale in relationship to the inhale to make them match. And what this is going to do, you might be able to breathe slower, but I don't want you to think that breathing slower is necessarily better. What it's really helping you do is you're sophisticating your relationship to your respiratory system, and in that, empowering your sense of consciousness, your sensitivity, and your relationship with your organism. And that's a huge part of meditation. What you do with that heightened sensitivity, what you do with that deeper relationship is your choice, as life unfolds. So a 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio. All I wanted to talk about today is that this month is going to be sort of like this slow burn. We're hitting the same technique, applying a few different adjustments, working with a few different concepts to help us stay curious and stay intrigued with the same technique. But it's truly a slow burn and a commitment to focus and a commitment to focus. So there's a story that I always sort of rely upon that helps me appreciate the reality of achieving long-term goals and delaying gratification, pushing that sense of achievement further and further into the future, which has been proven to lead to well-being. The bigger our goals are, the further their finish lines are. Once we hit them, we are more enriched than goals that we can achieve in a single day or in a single moment. And so the story, hope it sticks in your head. There's a man in the Rajasthani deserts, right? Very thirsty, no water around, and fairly desperate. And so already his nervous system is wound up. His mind isn't thinking clearly, and he needs to and he wants to start digging for water. And so he starts digging a hole next to his favorite tree. And on he goes, hour after hour, and he's 5 feet in, 6 feet in. It's an enormous hole, to serve this really serious need. And at a certain point, 7 feet in, there's still no water. And so he loses hope. So the loss of hope is doubt, and in Sanskrit, doubt is vikalpa. And so doubt emerges. If you've ever read Dune, the sci-fi sort of classic, it holds this classic quote: "Fear is the mind killer," and doubt is corresponding with this fear. And so he has fear, he has doubt, and in that, he sabotages his pursuit, climbs out of his hole, and walks 10 feet away and does the same thing. Digging, desperate for water. Hits the 5-foot mark, doubt starts to seed in his mind. Hits the 6-foot mark, no water. Hits the 7-foot mark, no water. And now doubt takes over, fear takes over, gets out of his hole, walks 10 feet away. And so the lesson is he keeps doing this, never sort of crossing his threshold and never achieving his goal. And the idea is that water was 8-9 feet below the surface. And if he just committed a little bit more and overcame his doubt, he would have reached what he was looking for. And the same can be said when we're holding our breath. Not necessarily now because we're starting and we're hitting this 1-to-1-to-1-to-1 ratio, but when we start to really push our endurance, our ability to collect CO2 and suffocate, I want you to keep this story in your mind. And the overarching idea is that the whole is this single technique, Kumbhaka, and spending every day with it will lead to, unprecedented and unexpected experiences and consequences. So let's think about that. It's a slow burn. The last thing I wanted to say, also sort of like hitting this slow burn, concept. Most meditative lineages, if you think about transcendental meditation or Vipassana meditation or Zen Buddhism, most lineages derive from like single practitioners, ancient practitioners, and those practitioners, as they move deeper and deeper into their practice, really build loyalty to like one or two techniques that really supported them in their spiritual growth. And so for that reason, most sort of pronounced lineages really commit to one technique. Transcendental meditation, for example, solely commits to mantra. And so you receive a mantra as a cello or as a disciple. You don't even necessarily know what the mantra means, and you spend the entirety of your sort of like transcendental meditation voyage, which might be your lifetime, repeating this single mantra and allowing that one technique to sort of open over your decades. And the same for Vipassana, right? All they do is essentially feel their bodies with greater and greater sensitivity, and that one technique carries them forward throughout the entirety of their spiritual journey. And so Kumbhaka could be the same. Hatha Yoga, the lineage from which this breath technique comes, is a little bit more diverse, a little bit more dynamic, which I enjoy, but Kumbhaka has sort of risen up the ranks, at least in my experience. And for that reason, it's nice to commit a month to it purely and see where it takes us. Awesome. So with all that said, let's get into our practice. Some details in terms of your seat, because if you're experiencing pain, that's like such a big obstacle and sort of unnecessary. So if you experienced pain yesterday, numbness in the legs, pressure in the knees, pain in the lower back, do yourself a favor and sit on a cushion. The general idea is that you want your hips above your kneecaps. And so that's going to help you out a lot. If you're sitting on the floor today and you still experience pain, even though your hips are above your kneecaps, just take a second and sit on your couch or sit on a chair. And in that, you can really commit to the experience of your respiratory system and the technique itself. Beautiful. All right, day 2 upon us. Again, the journey's begun. All right, tall spine, close your eyes. Tilt your hips forward, lengthen your spine. And a little detail here, as you lengthen your spine, notice that surge of confidence. That is your sympathetic nervous system. Rest your wrists on your knees, straighten your arms, so your fingertips are sliding towards the floor. Wrists are still on knees. Spread your fingers very, very wide, rotating your palms up to the sky. And just take a second and attempt to feel the tips of your fingers. Your fingertips have a high nerve density, right? We use them to hold the world. And see if you can sense a buzzing or a tingling. Now bring a random finger to each thumb. And so these hand gestures are called mudras. Hold your hands gracefully and delicately. Think about flower petals. And that should be a stark contrast to the way you're holding the rest of your body, firmly and rigidly. Soften your face. And now start to control your breath in a fairly natural way. Just deep inhales into the belly. So as you breathe in, the belly swells. And steady exhales. As you exhale, the belly pulls in, but try to stay tall. So the exhale becomes more active than usual, more active than the inhale. Deep inhales into the belly. Active exhales, belly pulls in, spine stays tall. And so you're already controlling the breath. We're just going to go over the definition of pranayama, these spiritual respiratory exercises. Pranayama means to control my breath, leads to the expansion of my vitality. to control my breath immediately leads to a surge in presence and a surge in my sense of agency. So I want you to notice that. And the idea with pranayama is that we jump the gun. We attempt to control our lives without controlling ourselves. Start to count the natural length of your inhale. Try to breathe a bit more slowly. And match your exhale to the length of your inhale. Again, your exhale might naturally be longer. More than likely it is. So you'll have to accelerate your exhale slightly. Pull the abdomen and diaphragm in more quickly. And so you're loyal to the ratio. Kumbhaka. Kumbha means vessel, aka means pain. As you hold your breath, when you are not breathing, you are the vessel of prana, of energy. The more you hold your breath, the longer you attempt to be the vessel of energy, the more pain there is as CO2 builds. And so this is the heart of our technique. We build tolerance. So engage Kumbhaka now. Inhale for that baseline. Hold your breath for that same count. Exhale, same count. Hold your breath for that same count. Notice if there's an impulse to test yourself, to break the ratio. And so it's a slow burn. It's a day-by-day advancement. If that impulse is impatience, that impulse is rooted in the expectation of achieving a certain aim, rather than just experiencing the instruction. And the essence of that need, that desire, is the same essence of this fabled man who was so desperate for the water underneath the sand that he failed to commit to the point. Dig. Soften your face, gently lengthen your spine. Again, notice that surge in presence, wakefulness, and confidence that comes as you adjust your posture. That's a physiological thing. And now add 1 or 2 counts to every section of this 4-part breath. 1 or 2 counts. And what I'd like you to do as you are adding time is try to differentiate the experience and the quality of each segment of this technique. You don't have to put words to it, just notice that each segment is different. Now, if you can put words to it, because we all are still thinking, do so. Keep the spine tall. Pranayama. Prana, breath, yam, control. When I control my breath. Prana, ayam. I expand upon my vitality. Kumbhaka, kumbha, vessel, aka, pain. When I am the vessel of prana, the vessel of my breath, the vessel of my vitality, I will experience pain. But in the long run, I will enrich and replenish my reserves of vitality. And so as the minutes tick by, hopefully you can empathize with this man in the desert. Keep digging, keep holding, keep observing, keep studying. Okay, last round. We're going to break the ratio just to give you a sense of the aka, the pain, which is suffocation. It's the buildup of CO2. I want you to inhale as slowly as you can. Hold your breath for as long as you literally can. Exhale as slowly as you can. And again, hold your breath for as long as you possibly can. That external retention will be very difficult, but also short-lived. After this final round, with no ratio, just breathe normally. Inhale, hold for as long as possible. Exhale, hold for as long as possible. always breathing through the nose. And so you're more than likely breathing normally at this point or about to breathe normally. Now, relinquish control, just breathe, hold stillness, externalize your awareness, meaning pay attention to the room you're in and consider the morning. Soften your face, simple mindfulness. Let thoughts come and go. Perfect stillness. So to emphasize the validity of delaying gratification, putting yourself through the fire. At this point, you're just sitting down, breathing normally as you do for countless hours all day, but because you pushed yourself for 20 minutes, this experience is enriched. Take a few breaths at the end of our practice, appreciating that you are at the beginning of a journey. A journey committed purely to one technique. And now gently bring your hands to heart center, relax your shoulder blades, sit up tall. Again, perfect stillness. Just like yesterday, we like to think we are conscious. We like to think we are in control of at least ourselves. But there is a blaring voice that tells us, informs us we aren't. And so this self-control can be expanded upon. So to test this sentience, at the whim of a thought, increase your sincerity. Appreciate your humanity. The deep bed of emotions that rumbles underneath your day-to-day thinking. The desire to know life's mysteries. This is the realm of the yogis and the realm of meditation. And from here, consider your breath. Your breath is with you from the first moment of your life to the very end, and it stays essentially the same in form and experience, unlike anything else, unlike our thought process, unlike our bodies, unlike our relationships. And because of this proximity, this endurant longevity, when we connect to our breath, which stays the same for our entirety, it informs us of ourselves. And for this reason, the yogis really devoted themselves to breathing and developed the art of pranayama. So honor your breath. Lift your thumb knuckles, keep your hands as they are. Lift your thumb knuckles right underneath the nails of your thumbs and press them into the center of your forehead. And so you're honoring the third eye, Agna Chakra. The third eye is just a metaphor for consciousness. And that metaphor lined up with the prefrontal cortex, which is where our consciousness, our sense of autonomy exists neurologically in the brain. And as you focus on the sensation of your thumb touching your forehead, it's just a target. Acknowledge your sentience, that you are inside yourself, inside the body, beyond the thought process. And that it's this self, this intangible thing, that we rely upon to live our lives and to direct us into the waters or into the desert, into heaven or into hell, into well-being or into dis-ease. The heart of all meditation techniques, the intention of all lineages, is to assist individuals in becoming acquainted or reacquainted with this experience, the self. Take an exhale, hold your breath, release your wrists to your knees, nice tall spine, external retention. And with a breath in, open your eyes and just look out into the space in front of you, out into your Tuesday morning.